And welcome into your local election headquarters right here on KRK.com and Fox16.com. I'm Mitch McCoy. We want to get right to our second candidate running for the Little Rock Board of Directors. We have a lot of questions to get to, so let's start off by telling everyone your name and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Rohn Muse. That's spelled ROHNMUSE, and you can type in that name into any search engine, find more information about me. I am an advocate for human rights, a well-seasoned participant observer, and problem solver. I'm a pragmatist, a researcher who believes objectivity and scientific inquiry are necessary for further understanding of divisive issues and cultural differences, each of which brings with it wide-ranging perspectives. I'm a distinguished as the UALR inaugural recipient of the Stonewall Scholarship, an institution that recognizes scholars who demonstrate advocacy for LGBT plus persons individually as well as community-wide. I hold a baccalaureate in anthropology and a Master of Arts in interdisciplinary social sciences with concentration on anthropology, sociology, and gender studies. Additionally, I have served as a planning commissioner for the city of Little Rock for 2 terms, which is 6 years. I am experientially and academically prepared to step into the at-large position 9 city director's seat without any pause in taking actions to fulfill my duties.
Awesome. Let's get right into the questions here. Crime in Little Rock has been an issue for years. What is your opinion on the relationship between the Little Rock Police Department and the community? What ideas do you have to improve community policing? And how should the crime rate be addressed?
Well, I purchased my home south of I-630 and have been living in it for over 33 years. I am a co-founder of the Forest Hills Neighborhood Association, now in existence for over 30 years. When I moved into this area in 1987, the Crips and the Bloods had taken over the whole area, and my family and friends thought I had taken leave of my senses. But I had a mission, not only to restore my now over 100-year-old Craftsman bungalow home, but to do what I could to instigate a revival of this area as the very desirable place it used to be when middle-class railroad workers lived here. The relationship with the police department now lies mainly on a divide between supporters of the chief, generally along racial lines, and those who think he should leave, which is representative by a wide-ranging and ever-growing number of ethnic groups. Back to 1987, Highland Park was teeming with criminals, drugs, and firearms. As we formed Forest Hills, we also formed a Crime Watch program. We worked closely with the police at the time, who we still credit with ridding our neighborhood and outlying areas of the criminal element. As a planning commissioner, I was instrumental in getting approved the now thriving Madison Heights apartments on 12th Street, a mixed income complex with strict rules for living there.
You know, let's continue our conversation on the Little Rock Police Department. There is an apparent discord within LRPD. The police chief is facing multiple lawsuits from current and former city employees. The police chief, in his individual capacity, is suing Little Rock employees over civil rights violations. How do you plan on addressing these apparent issues within the city's police department?
Addressing the issue of within the city's police department would begin with the chief taking an indefinite leave of absence from his position until the lawsuits can be decided. A special agent chosen by the Little Rock Board of Directors would step into the administration of the police department. Chief Humphrey should be allowed as a non-functioning leader to express to the public what his plan is going forward as the police department leader should he be reinstated as chief. A simple resolution by the Little Rock Board of Directors would allow this. City Attorney Tom Carpenter tells the Little Rock Board not to discuss the lawsuits. If the chief stuck to his plan and does not get into a discussion of the lawsuits, this option for the chief should be allowed in my view. I would push for it. This way, the public would know his intentions for improving the department for the future. They would either agree or disagree to his plan and have a right to express these publicly in a series of town halls, either virtually or person to person, while following all scientific guidance for protection while in the public setting.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about government infrastructure. The board's at-large positions have always been a hot topic. Do you believe the board should be restructured?
I do not believe the board should be restructured. Firstly, I learned that a young lawyer had been handpicked by the mayor to run for the at-large position 9 of the Little Rock Board of Directors for the purpose of abolishing it. I then began to call people around the city to get their views on this. Few had knowledge of it. Most who did not know were against the idea of abolishing this institution. I will offer one example for now about the value of the at-large directors, with a quote from Max Brantley of the Arkansas Times. Muse should be familiar to those who followed the development of the Little Rock Technology Park. His Forest Hills neighborhood on the south side of Interstate 630, across from UAMS, was targeted by powerful business forces as the site for the tech park. Homes would have been taken and leveled. Muse led neighborhood opposition that was critical in a change of direction that eventually led to the tech park downtown instead. We as a neighborhood worked closely with the at-large directors who passed an ordinance that would have kept from the tech park $22 million if they chose Forest Hills or any other neighborhood under consideration if the residents did not agree to leave. I believe at-large directors' holistic perspectives coalesce very well with individual as well as unified board concerns and initiatives.
So sticking with government infrastructure here, some board members have been vocal in recent months about an apparent disconnect between the mayor's office and some members of the board. How do you plan on working with the executive office but still hold executive leadership accountable?
I'm a regular attendee or YouTube observer of the Little Rock Board proceedings. I have at least twice been refused by the mayor to speak on items before the board. The most important one also included the spokesperson for the League of Women Voters. We each had filled out cards before 6 p.m., a requirement of the mayor, when one wishes to address an item on the agenda. The mayor pushed through approving this important item, an item that had not been discussed by the Little Rock Board during the formation of the upcoming agenda, because the mayor wanted to hear from a consultant on his idea about the War Memorial Golf Course. The important item that I strongly believe would have not passed had the two of us been allowed to speak was the additional charges on water bills for more than one annual curbside pickup and tainted recycling bins. There are many low to moderate and retired persons who also pay too much for their services now to have additional charges on their bills. Let us end voice votes and settle all issues by raising of hands or roll call votes to enable online viewers and those attending in person to understand the actions of our leaders. Also, do not disallow someone or anyone to speak if they have filled out a card in compliance with the mayor's dictates.
Let's talk a little bit about neighborhoods, specifically rebuilding the city and bridging gaps. Some would say the city has taken a significant effort to revitalize neighborhoods. Others would disagree. How would you further efforts to revitalize neighborhoods?
I'm very experienced in this respect. Thankfully, now that opportunity zones have been created in some of the areas, we are experiencing a few improvements to revitalization. I also have been involved for decades toward betterment of Forest Hills and can transport the same actions elsewhere into the city. Firstly, we must get together with our legislators at the state capitol and finally pass a warrant of habitability. We are the only state in the union without one. Simply put, this action would require that landlords bring their rentals up to codes. Furthermore, we need to work closely with the realtors and speculators to cooperate with this ideology. it will be difficult when so many are salivating over urban areas trying to buy homes cheap so that they can gentrify these areas and make lots of money. Since winning our fight over losing our homes to the tech park after 3 years of fighting to save them, we now are enjoying over $10 million of infrastructure, primarily complete streets. Other areas can do the same if they're willing to seek out the funding and apply for it. I will help them with this.
Let's talk a little bit about what some would be a very passionate conversation. People have voiced concerns about a racial divide in this city, specifically using Interstate 630 as a reference between poor neighborhoods, middle class, and upper class neighborhoods. What part will you have to help unite the city?
White flight unfortunately began that decline of this area in Little Rock, and then Wilbur D. Mills, underpinned by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, completed that divide by pushing for Interstate 630, which summarily separated what is now referred to as the haves and the have-nots, which is a misnomer nonetheless. What most do not know or do not want to express is that the interstate systems, highway systems, launched by the Interstate Defense Highway Act of 1956, were never meant to go through urban areas. The initial concept was first put forward to allow airplanes to land in emergencies. Highways were meant to connect states, but to go around the urban areas, not through them. However, the culture of the automobile became an integral part of the American way to the suburbs. Issue 1 will summarily be the death knell to overcoming the divide anytime soon. But this will not discourage me from educating the other directors about this long-term de-evaluation of the so-called poor neighborhoods. And I will press for more infusion of funding to renovate older structures and build the appropriate styles of infill housing in these areas, because the city, the state, and the nation owe it to the people who have suffered for too long for a better quality of life.
Well, and if elected, what will you do to improve the quality of life for every citizen?
That is a tall order, but I am up to trying it. Firstly, I believe we need to agree upon what quality of life entails. Those familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs will probably agree with that these include basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs. Basic needs include food, water, warmth, and rest, plus security and safety. To me, this describes a proper home with all that comes with it. Psychological needs include intimate relationships and friendships, as well as prestige and a feeling of accomplishment. To me, this describes opportunities for a good education and good wages well above what they are now. Self-fulfillment needs include self-actualization, achieving one's potential, including creative activities. To me, this represents what a good life is, with all those things one deserves, like one's good health, physical, mental, and spiritual, as well as happiness and whatever is required to achieve these things, readily available to all. I believe a good start to this is to provide the homeless with the basics, then move on from there. And I would like to discuss and explore a seemingly successful program I have found in Austin, Texas, called Community First Village. It can be found at mlf.org.
If elected, your term would consist of rebuilding the city's economy after the COVID-19 global health pandemic. Many businesses have been forced to close. What kind of experience do you have to ensure Little Rock not only bounces back, but grows to a new height?
Big businesses seem to bounce back more readily and more swiftly than do small businesses. I would begin with them. Once again, I believe nothing is better for gathering information than to hold meetings of stakeholders to assess their true needs. I am a very good listener, a participant observer. I would have staff attend these meetings and take copious notes while also recording the proceedings so that nothing of concern or any needs will be left out. This information would be widely shared with citizens, the Chamber of Commerce, the Downtown Partnership, representatives of the city, state, and federal governments, and others who have an interest and potential to assist the small businesses in a variety of ways and means. Certainly, we should also include those scientists, who know of the best ways to protect oneself and their patrons from spreading the COVID-19 virus. As to experience, I was a business owner for over 25 years and know the pitfalls of operating business and how to overcome failure and rebuild success. Advertising our city's accomplishments to others areas of the state and other states would also bolster involvement by more groups and individuals within our city.
You know, in recent years, the city announced a financial struggle which caused layoffs and park closures. If elected, how will you ensure the city avoids future layoffs and other closures?
Ideas should be developed with buy-in of not only the directors, but never without the citizens' involvement. These ideas should come from anyone in Little Rock who wishes to submit one or more ideas, regardless of how sublime or mundane these are to the ears of others. The most important citizens to include, in my view, are the youth. They are the future. Indeed, youth should be included on every city-sanctioned committee henceforth and forever. Now that we know the directions to take, the way toward ensuring the city avoids layoffs and other closures is for the Little Rock Board to put aside their personal likes and dislikes and start working for the bosses, the citizenry of our great city. If a ward director identifies a real need for their ward, there should be encouragement among the others to make these things happen. Slinging insults to one another and disrespect of others among the Little Rock Board, while they should be doing what is right and good for the communities, should be the main topic of conversation and be in agreement. As my mother and grandmother used to say, if you cannot say anything positive about another individual, say nothing. The mayor among all should take this information to heart and be the example.
All right. Thank you very much for your time today. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Just a reminder, Election Day is November 3rd, KRK and Fox 16. We are your local election headquarters. But for now, take care.